Welcome to the Liturgists podcast, everybody. My name is Michael Gungor. Today's guest is Hale Dwoskin, author of the best-selling book, The Sedona Method. And those of you who have listened to me for a long time in my different phases of life and to this podcast through the years have known that I occasionally will find the new practice that is speaking to me, whether it's meditation or the Enneagram or existential kink or any number of things. This one is my current thing that I'm doing, this method, the Sedona method. And I got to say, it's not on the surface as exciting for the ego as some other practices may be. It doesn't have a sexy name like existential kink. It doesn't have a number you can create some identity with, like the Enneagram, and talk to your friends about who they are and who you are. It doesn't have any levels to achieve. But it is incredibly powerful at helping you look thoroughly through your life, your motivations. It's great for shadow work and getting into every nook and cranny of your life and surrendering to your life. And I've already seen incredible fruit in a short time of practicing this method in my own life. I've been buying the book and giving it to friends, which I rarely do. I don't know if I ever do, actually, buy a bunch of books and give them away, but I have been. I can't speak of this highly enough. It's so powerful. And I hope that this is not a book that you'll just judge by its cover. Because again, there's not some of the hooks that other practices and methods have in really alluring the ego. If you just even see the physical cover of this book, it's just pretty plain, looks like an old book, self-help book or something. Not something I would be drawn to by just seeing it on the shelf. But I'm so glad that this book found its way into my life. And I'm so glad that it's making its way into yours now. And I hope that you'll check it out, that you'll get the book, read it, practice it, more than just read it. It's not really a method based in information or teaching or philosophy. It really is a practice, and a powerful one at that. And we've actually been practicing it together for several weeks now at the Sunday thing, our weekly Liturgists Zoom call on Sundays. So if this interests you, come join us and talk about this more and practice it with us. It's been really cool doing this with others in the community as well. If you want to know more about that, just go to theliturgists.com. But let's get to the episode. This is Hale Dwoskin. I think I'm going to break up this episode into a couple different parts because it's not so much about information, but it's about a practice. And this will be a nice little simple introduction to the practice. Hopefully whet your appetite enough to get the book, start some of the practices yourself. Really hope you do. Really hope we'll see you at the Sunday thing. Join us. Just one other little note before we get into the episode, because while I was talking to Hale, I kept hearing this high-pitched squeaking, and I was like, what in the world is that? Eventually we found out in the interview that it's Hale's bird. He's got a bird at his house. So just to save you any of that wondering for yourself, the high squeaking is Hale's bird. All right. All the love, everybody. Hope you enjoy. Well, wonderful. I'm so happy to meet you.
Likewise.
I've been enjoying your book so much and was planning on having it finished today, but the exercises keep just like getting me drawn in, and I just want to stay there forever.
Oh, that's great.
So I can't. I was like, and every time I'm like, well, just read through it now so that for the podcast interview, and then come back to the exercises. But I'm so like lost in the bliss of it that I'm like, what? Who cares about a podcast?
That's great.
So, I hope in telling you that you can hear that I certainly am loving it. I think there's a couple in getting into this specific practice. I mean, maybe you could just give listeners that are unfamiliar with what it is. It's called the Sedona method.
Yes.
And which in the title doesn't really give anything away about the actual practice. So maybe you could just, somebody who's completely unfamiliar, could you just briefly introduce us
absolutely.
to the idea of the method? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, the Sedona method, don't let the name fool you. It only has, first off, that name because the first courses were held in Sedona, Arizona, back in the early 1970s. And we originally called it Mind Freedom because it frees your mind of all its inner sense of constriction and limitation and holdbacks. And then Jonestown happened, the Jonestown massacre. And then there was all this, that title sounds like could be brainwashing, and it's actually the exact opposite. So it's called the Sedona method only because that's where the first courses were held. And so it's a coincidental name that we changed it to, because at the time Sedona hadn't been discovered, and we wanted to give it a name that was neutral, because no one even knew of Sedona. It was just a town.
Yeah, right.
So, but what the Sedona method is it's a very powerful and very elegantly simple technique that shows you how to tap a natural ability that we all have. That's our ability to let go of the stress, the tension, the anxiety, the struggle, the inner holdbacks, the fear, the grief, the anger, the frustration, all the things that hold us back from being happy, fully alive, engaged in life, and effective at what we do. And it's also very helpful for helping us to discover our own inner truth, whatever that means for us. And so what it does through a series of simple questions that you ask yourself, it shows you how to let go of all of this stuff. And we already do this naturally. If you've ever been around a young child and you saw them fall down and then look around to see if they need to be upset, if no one caught their eye, they just drop it. They don't get lost in the upset. But if someone catches their eye, sometimes they'll get into this whole upset and then they'll drop it again. And so we know how to do this naturally, and we get trained out of it from a very young age. But when you're able to get in touch with this natural ability as an adult, it's a boon. It just opens so many possibilities up for you. And it's in a way that you can never really go back to not be remembering how to do this. It becomes as natural as breathing.
Yeah. Okay, so letting go is something that a lot of our listeners are already doing and familiar with the idea that what we hold on to, the stories that we're holding on to, the feelings that we're holding on to really become our prisons. But there's something about the way that you lay this out, this method. It's elegant, it's simple, it's direct, but there's basically 4 steps to this little process.
Yes.
Just want to briefly talk about that
sure.
for a second.
Let me actually, again, your audience, I'm sure, knows the importance of letting go. And when we first started talking about this in the early 1970s, the 12-step community talked about it, but not many other people really did. Now it's everywhere. Right. And so I like to just make it really clear so that people know what we mean by letting go. So if you're willing to do this, you look like you have enough going on there. You don't need to pick up a pen or a pencil. But those of you listening at home, oh, okay, great. Pick up a pen or a pencil or a paper clip, a coin. It doesn't matter. Or otherwise, just imagine it and put it in your hand. And for the sake of this analogy, this pen or this pencil or this object represents your fear, your frustration, your anger, the stories that are holding you back, your beliefs about yourself that are holding you back, all the things you struggle with. And your hand represents your gut or your awareness. Now grip the object with your hand really tightly. Now, if you did this long enough, it would start to feel really familiar and really uncomfortable, because this is what we're doing all the time without realizing it. It's even in our language. When we feel sad, we don't say, I feel sad. We usually say, I'm sad. When we're feeling angry, we usually say, I'm angry, because that's actually how it feels to us. We get lost in the story or the emotion of it. But every object is as attached to you as this object is attached to your hand. So now close your hand lightly around the object, turn your hand upside down, and just let go of the object. That's what we mean by letting go. It's really just a choice or a decision to just open inside and allow it to dissolve. And there's a set of very simple questions that we use in the beginning of this process. There's much more to it than that. And I'm happy, depending on how much time we have, to cover as much of it as we can, because I want to engage people in a way that they can start doing this on their own, whether or not they ever check out our website or read the book. So the first question is, you just get in touch with what you're feeling. You can ask yourself something like, what am I feeling? Or could I allow or welcome whatever I'm feeling? And the next question is, could I let it go? And if you were able to drop that object a moment ago, then I know you can. The next question is, would you let it go? And would you just means, are you willing to? And if you're ever trying to do this on your own, you may be struggling a little bit, you can just ask yourself, would I rather hold on to this feeling or this story about myself or this limitation, or would I rather be free of it and have my goals? And the last question is when. And when is an invitation to decide to do it now. Now, these questions are incredibly simple, and that's part of their benefit. They're so simple, there's not a lot to remember. Mm-hmm. So you can find yourself using these questions anywhere, anytime to let go. And the more you use them, the easier it gets, until you reach a point where letting go is so much more available to you than it ever was before. So let's actually go through the experience of it. I'll guide us through it so that you can all get a sense of what I'm talking about. And you don't have to respond out loud. I want to do this with everybody. It's like a group process. Okay? Yeah. Great.
Please.
So in this moment, allow yourself to think of any situation in your life that you're wanting to change or improve. It could be about your health. It could be about how much money you have. It could be about something in the world. It could be about a relationship, or just about your general sense of well-being and happiness. And whatever has come to mind, could you just simply welcome the feeling or the story you have about it? Could you just let it be here? And then, as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? Okay, now you may have felt some difference just from those questions. If not, just stay open and just pursue this as an exploration. You can't get it wrong, and it's okay to say no inside to these questions. You'll still find something shifting. So let's run through it 1 or 2 more times. So in this moment, focus on the same thing we looked at before, or anything else that you'd like to change or you think could be improved. And then could you just simply welcome whatever that brings up inside of you? Could you just welcome it, allow it to be here, be present with it? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let it go? Just could you? Would you? When? And again, you probably felt more. You might felt something shift on the could you, the would you, and the when, or you might have saved it for the end, or you still may not be fully sure. But either way, just stay open to it. And let's run through it one more time. So in this moment, could you just welcome whatever you're feeling and whatever story is attached to it? Could you be present with it? Allow it. And then as best you can, just for now, could you let that go? Just could you? Would you? When? Okay, good. So you can continue this on your own. You go at your own rate, and you just stay open to what unfolds inside of you. If you stay open to it, I know it's simple, but if you stay open to this, it can produce miracles. I've had people let go of fears and phobias and long-standing anger and resentment, and heal relationships and support their body's immune system, and even have people have profound openings to spiritual experiences just because they let go of what was in the way.
Yeah. So powerful. Thank you for leading us in that. There's a couple aspects about this practice and where you take it in the book that I think make it uniquely, because a lot of people talk about letting go, you're right.
Yes.
But there's something about some of the ways that you're talking about it and some of the invitations and the practices that the book explores that I think make it really unique. One is the invitation to consciously hold on and release, both to because it doesn't necessarily just start with if something's coming up, just let it go. Like first, really grab it.
Yes.
Like that effort to actually kind of constrict. Sometimes you see that in different mindfulness meditations or whatever, where you first constrict your body.
Yes.
And then you release it, and that kind of
yes. Well, sometimes, sometimes that's helpful. It's also more of a permission. You don't, in order to do this, you don't have to constrict first. But if you're not giving yourself permission to hold on, then you'll have a harder time giving yourself permission to let go. Because most of the time, especially if we've learned that letting go is good and we've done it, however we've gotten to it, we might start judging ourselves when we're holding on to things. We might start resisting that we're holding on, or trying to force ourselves to let go. And when you force yourself to do anything, it tends to just simply build up more resistance inside. It makes it harder to do even the things that we really want to do. So when you give yourself permission first, if you feel like you need to hold on first. Then when you decide to let go, it comes more naturally, more easily, more effortlessly. And it's easier to maintain because it's not forced. It's just something you're allowing.
Yeah. And there's like playing with the opposites is one of the really beautiful things that I love that the book keeps inviting you to. So in a case where, yeah, maybe I'm having trouble letting go of this feeling, I'm resisting letting go of this feeling, the invitation is to not resist the resistance. Like,
Yes, yes.
could I let go to my resistance and be okay resisting letting go of
Yes.
that story,
Yes,
which
yes.
it can feel counterintuitive. But the odd thing is when you stop trying to, it's like, okay, well, I'm resisting. You might find that like surrender just kind of like goes through you and gets to that initial feeling that you were resisting. It's a
Yes.
weird magic thing.
Yeah, it is. It does. It does really does sometimes feel magical. Again, what happens is as we get more comfortable with letting go, we also get more daring about it. The more we see that
Yeah.
we can let go of things that were holding us back, maybe things that we thought we'd never be able to master or deal with. When those things start to dissolve as you get comfortable with letting go, then you get more excited about it. You get more engaged with it. You get more daring because I never thought I could let go of this belief I have about myself, or this hurt I've been carrying for decades, or this loss that I don't think I'll ever recover from. But I let go of these other things, so maybe I can give it a try, open to it. And you'll find that the ability to let go increases to the degree that you exercise it, just like a muscle. Except it's a little different in that with a muscle, you have to contract in order to build a muscle. There's contraction, letting go, contraction, letting go. But with releasing, with letting go, with the Sedona method, what happens is you find that you're living more naturally in an open, transparent state where you feel warmth within your heart. You feel more love for yourself, for your family, and for creation. And that arises naturally as you let go, and you find you're living in that open, loving state more and more of the time without effort. And all the things that you've known true before, that you've been trying to live in your life, start to become more accessible, more available, more natural. And so life just feels, it takes on this sense of flow and ease and naturalness.
Yeah. I think what I personally liked about the invitation to sometimes practice consciously constricting is because personally I letting go of whatever's arising in the moment is already my consistent practice, and kind of a very natural way for me at this point after years of it. But this particular practice inviting me to consciously look at the opposite and kind of constrict has been bringing up some things that were unconscious.
Yes.
And little areas of my body that I thought had let go, but by squeezing the muscles and then letting them go, I was like, oh wow, that part of the muscle was clenched the whole time. I didn't feel that. Like there was this. There's just been this really interesting effect. Like the other day, one of the exercises was about seeing, using your different senses, and for instance, like seeing or hearing or feeling sort of the specific form in front of you, like almost like looking at the foreground, like reading the text on the page,
Yes.
and then switching your vision to like the background of the page or the space between the form, the emptiness within the form. And so I was playing with that with my breath. I was actually at the gym, but I was breathing kind of heavy, and I was like tripping balls by the end because I was going every inhale. I was really focusing on the form of the world around me, of the gym and the TVs and the
Yeah.
people and the stories and the feelings in the body, and then every exhale I was just being the space within all of that. But I just kept, like, there was this movement that was trippy. I was like, as an exercise, kind of moving form empty, and it just by the end I could have a really clear, kind of beautiful sense of both happening at the same time. But I've loved about this method how it keeps inviting you into the unexpected move for what you think, again, the opposites. So
Yes.
letting go, or even letting go of the higher states. So you get, and I'd love to dive more into the 9 emotions that you talk
Sure.
about. But even inviting you, as the experiences that you have get more pleasurable, and as you think you're in a naturally letting go space, letting go of that, letting go of the peace.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
And
shocking
just
to most people at first.
right. I love it so much.
Well,
Can you talk about that?
Oh, sure. Well, the reason we recommend that you continue to let go, even when you're feeling happy or blissful or courageous or accepting or peaceful, is because what you'll find as you really get into letting go, you'll find if you let go of anger or fear or grief or pride, they dissipate. They just dissolve naturally. But when you let go of courageousness, acceptance, and peace, what happens is they seem to just open and deepen and get bigger, more relaxed, more natural, more open. And so you're just opening yourself to more and more of what's really true about you. Courageousness, acceptance, and peace is what's natural to each and every one of us. Our apathy, grief, fear, lust, anger, and pride acts like a covering over that, preventing us from seeing that courageousness, acceptance, and peace. And so we're uncovering ourselves every time we let go, and we're opening to this courage, acceptance, and peace, and even what's beyond that. So that's why we encourage letting go of even the good feelings. And before we get into the emotions, I was wondering, would you like me to take people through a process that shows them how to embrace opposites?
Please.
Okay, good. So I'll pick something very simple because everyone will be able to relate to this. So we'll focus on the body, because that's something we all have in common. We all have one of those, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this. And for most of us, there's always at least one spot in the body that's not as relaxed or open or as ease as we'd like it to be. And so what happens because of that is we get hyper-focused on that and ignore the whole rest of our body, which is feeling totally fine. And we actually contract into that limiting and sensation, and we lose ourselves in it. But even when we're really contracted, most of the body is fine, even if you're in the middle of extreme pain. And at the same time, all of that is happening within the open space of awareness or beingness. And that's there's more space in the body, even on a molecular level, than there is form. Mm-hmm. So when you go back and forth, you welcome the contraction, and then you welcome the openness and the space within the body. What happens is your mind opens and calms, and your body relaxes and opens too. And it just is a really fun thing to do. So let's do it together. And this is very simple. It requires very little thought. Just feel into it as best you can as I guide us through this. So, and one important thing, if you're not struggling with your body, don't worry about it. Just focus on any sensation you're having in your body. because often we don't even realizing it. Even if it's a good sensation, there is a little clinging to it or contraction around it, or an identification with it, and just let that be. Don't look for something awful in your body and try to stir it up. That doesn't help. Just be with whatever sensations you're having. So in this moment, could you just simply focus on whatever sensations you're experiencing within the body? And could you just let them be there? Allow them, welcome them. And then could you also welcome the parts of your body that are sensation-free, or just simply the openness or the space or the isness that those sensations appear within. And then could you welcome the sensations again? Could you just let them be here? And then could you welcome the parts of your body that are sensation-free, or just simply focus on the openness, the emptiness, the beingness. And then could you allow yourself to welcome whatever sensations you're experiencing in this moment? And then could you welcome as well the openness, the space, the isness, the parts of your body and its surroundings that are sensation-free. And then could you welcome again whatever remaining sensations you're aware of in this moment? Could you just be present with them? Notice them. And then could you allow yourself to welcome or allow or be present with that open space, that beingness, that all sensations appear within.
If you'd like to continue doing this practice, going through these steps back and forth, I'd like to encourage you to continue to do so. I'm going to leave the music playing for a few minutes here, and we'll come back to the rest of this interview in a future podcast. But for now, just allow yourself to really sink into this moment and feel your fullness, your form, your emptiness, and the love that unites them. Thanks for listening, everybody.